All right, everybody, let's get this party started. I'm facilitating this session with some help from my friend at SRI, Jared, and we are going to be listening to Jared today, if not live right off the bat in a video that he created. So let me welcome you to this session where we're going to take an opportunity to dig in to our work that we've been doing as working groups, to discuss some of the data that we've collected as part of that work that we've been doing, and then see where that leads us in terms of next steps. So I'm going to start out by giving a very short introductory PowerPoint presentation for those of you that may be new to the network and this part of what we're doing. So yesterday, you got to hear from the faculty student engagement group predominantly, but also from the immersion group as well, about promising practices. And they shared these with you. And they've come up with these promising practices and tested them as part of the work of our network. Today, we're going to take the opportunity to do a portion of that work called study. And we're going to try to do it together in different groups. Yes. All right, so I'm going to share my screen for just a few. These are very few slides here, just to get us ready to go. And I'm going to go right here first. Let's start this. Oops. Okay, so the title of this session is Diving into First2 Learning. And I have some personal goals that I hope we accomplish as part of the session together. And that is that if you are in a working group, whether on the sidelines or as a core member, that you will help us to operationalize, to try together collaboratively the study phase of Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles, and to try to make sense of the data that you've been collecting collectively. So in order to make this work, I have created a folder, and in that folder, there is a data discussion guide. So that's your materials. You may want to examine one or more of your promising ideas or look at evaluation data in order to discuss and study, do the study phase. I'm hoping for some outcomes. I'm hoping that you have an opportunity to reach consensus on some of your findings and maybe even wonder about data that you need to collect that you haven't collected yet in some of your work, and maybe some action steps regarding what you want to do next with the topics that you're going to be digging into. So we have some good time together today. I'm going to spend 20 minutes on this introductory aspect of things, send you into breakout rooms, and then save 15 minutes at the end for you to share out with everybody else what you worked on and maybe some of these outcomes if you got to those. So as you've been learning over the last day and a half, the First2 network is a learning network. We're always trying things and learning what works and what doesn't work. And we have a specific name for some of the work that we do together, and that is that we're a networked improvement community. And what a networked improvement community is a diverse group of stakeholders that come together to tackle complex problems, and they use a process called Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles. It's part of something called improvement science. And so there are 4 stages to Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles. There's the plan phase where you develop change ideas and ways to test those change ideas. Then you do you implement your idea and how you plan to do it. So you'll intervene in some way. And in this case, we are trying to improve student persistence. And so we're going to intervene in some way as part of our work to see if we can move the needle a little bit. You're going to measure changes that you see. And as part of that piece of the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, you want to study that data that you collect, those measurements that you make. And we really haven't had much of a chance as larger groups of people to study together some of these ideas that we're testing. And so that's what today hopefully will start us out on. And then you can act on that intervention. Did it work? Did you like it? Are you going to keep it and do it over and over again so you can adopt it? Did it not work at all and you want to abandon it? Or more likely, will you modify it in some way and then try it again? That's what we do a lot of here. So I just wanted to show you this because there are 4 main areas of work that First2 Network does in terms of plan, do, study, act cycles. And those are related to these 4 primary drivers that you see in this slide. So our aim is to double the graduation rate of our STEM majors in West Virginia. And to do that, we think that if we improve engagement of students and undergraduate institutions, engagement of students with science processes and their community, engage students in being more prepared and ready for college, or engage in leadership activities. Our students, of whom there are a lot in this session today, I'm so thankful for you guys, are the folks on the ground who know where the changes need to happen. And so providing opportunities for our students to take on leadership in this network to drive these changes are what we're after. Then you drill down a little bit into some secondary drivers. And then the next step is to create some ideas of things you could change that relate through this diagram back to our aim. We have different working groups that conduct plan, do, study, act cycles related to those drivers. And these are our 4 working groups that do this sort of improvement work together. So college readiness, immersive experiences, faculty student engagement, and student leadership. All right. So once again, a plan, do, study, act cycle is a plan to test a change idea, do the test, collect data of some kind, and study the result. At the end, you act to either keep it, modify it, or get rid of it. And these are meant to be change ideas that happen within your work that you can iterate on and improve over time. So continuous improvement is part of it. So today, as I mentioned before, we are going to go into the study phase together. Let me remove that. I don't need it anymore now. Okay, I'll save it. And I want to play you a wonderful video from Jared Boyce. So Jared Boyce is a member of our team from SRI. SRI is our mentor backbone. And one of the things that our mentor backbone has done for us, and I think Debbie is on today here too, has helped teach us how to do this improvement science work. And Jared has been extraordinarily busy over the last couple of months creating short videos on each step of the process. He said to me today, you can use my slides if you'd like. And I thought, well, why do that when we can hear directly? So this video takes 8 minutes and it will describe to you our goals and our methodology for the rest of our time together today. Make that big.
Welcome to the 3rd in-depth video into PDSAs, or Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles. In this video, we are going to do a deep dive into step 3, the study phase. This video will begin by describing the key tasks for the study phase. It will provide some strategies for reviewing data with your improvement team. Then the video will conclude with some considerations for you and your team to think about as you go through the study phase. Remember, the study phase is phase 3 of the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle. The study phase occurs after the do phase. In the do phase, you and your improvement team executed the test of the change idea, collected data according to your measurement plan, and documented any observations you made throughout that process. In the study phase, you will use those data to compare results across members of the improvement team and to determine what you have learned. Part of this process will be to compare the data collected in the do phase with the predictions you and your team made during phase 1, the planning phase. After completing the study phase, Your team will have the information and meaning you need to go into the final phase, the act phase, where you will decide whether to adapt, adopt, or abandon this change idea. The key tasks for the study phase begin with reviewing the data collected in the do phase. One way to review data is to convene one or more data discussions with you and the improvement team to collaboratively make sense of your data. In these data discussions, you can, among other things, assess those predictions you made from the planning phase and decide whether or not they were met based on the evidence. Lastly, throughout this entire process, you want to identify patterns in your data, as they may explain why some of your predictions were met while others were not. Data discussions are one approach for how to review data collaboratively. A data discussion is a conversation focused on answering 3 questions. First, what do we observe in the data? In this question, you and the improvement team work to make low inference observations about the data that are as factual as possible based on what the data themselves are. The second question is, what interpretations of the data do we have? In this question, you and the improvement team can begin to explore what those data might mean. Lastly, you and your team want to consider, what are the implications for our work? As you consider the implications of your interpretations of the data, you will prepare yourselves to move forward to phase 4, the act phase. Throughout the entire data discussion process, you should make sure to be grounded in evidence, where team members support each other in making explicit connections to the data collected in the do phase. One of the key elements of reviewing data during the study phase is to refer to your predictions made during the planning phase. Based on the data you collected in the do phase, identify which predictions were met and which predictions were not met. Then, consider which data may suggest possible explanations for why some predictions were or were not met. Lastly, consider what data you could collect during the next PDSA cycle that might provide more insight and further your collaborative learning around this change idea. Additionally, when reviewing data together, work to identify patterns in the data. For example, were predictions consistent across all tests, or were the predictions met in some tests, yet not others? For example, if you are working with an improvement team of teachers, you might find that some teachers met all predictions in all of their classes, while other teachers met some predictions in some classes, yet not others. Another consideration is whether the change idea was implemented the same way in all tests or varied. Again, if your improvement team is teachers, then teachers in one school may have implemented the change idea one way, whereas the teachers in another school may have implemented it in a different way, needing to adapt the change idea to their immediate school context. Lastly, when unexpected events occur, ask yourself whether or not the unexpected events occurred the same in all tests, or again, whether some tests had unexpected events while others did not. Throughout the study session, consider creating a culture of learning where everyone learns together by asking questions of one another. One of the most supportive questions you can ask is the question, how do you know? So if someone asks you how you know that certain data result in a certain conclusion, that is your team member supporting you in trying to connect your thinking explicitly to the data available to the team. As you have your data discussions and otherwise communicate about the data, be careful about some of the following words you might use. For example, always, never, everyone and no one, obviously, clearly, or knowing something. These are rather strong words when we talk about data that eliminate other options. So be careful to use more open-ended language that encourage multiple interpretations of the data. As you and your improvement team work through the study phase, make sure that you do review data as a team. Multiple perspectives provide the greatest opportunity to reach both a shared understanding of the data and the most accurate understanding of the data. Make sure you and your study team do reference specific data points in your team meetings. You want your conversations to be grounded in the evidence at all points in the process. Also, make sure you and your team honestly assess whether your predictions were met. Some of your predictions might be met, or might be met in part, or only sometimes. This is all acceptable, and the goal here is to use the predictions as a vehicle for learning. Do not expect to learn everything from a single test. These are called PDSA cycles because we do them repeatedly, learning more each time. Also, don't judge yourself or others when predictions are not met. For example, if you find the predictions were not met in your classrooms while they were met in others' classrooms, this is an excellent opportunity to learn about key factors that may influence whether or not a change idea is successful. To summarize the study phase, this is where you and your improvement team will review the data you collected during the do phase. Use data review strategies such as data discussions to create meaning from data collectively and collaboratively, and you will learn and inquire from the predictions you made during the plan phase being met or unmet. Thank you for watching this third video diving deeper into PDSA cycles.
All right. If you have questions, please feel free to ask them now. You can unmute if you have any questions about what you just heard and saw. And I'll stop sharing for a moment so that I can see your faces better. That's right. These Gay's putting in the chat there that there's a lot of good stuff that's starting to be found on the First2 website. And we do have some Plan, Do, Study, Act resources there. And all of these videos will shortly be posted there and end up on our YouTube channel as well. And I think they're fantastic. And what a resource, not only for us, but for others interested in doing improvement science. So next, I'm going to share my screen again. I want to show you, we're going to be using this thing called a discussion guide. I want to show you that. And I want to show you a download of one of the Plan, Do, Study, Act cycles that we're going to be using in immersive experiences, just so you can get an idea of the kinds of questions that we want to use our data to loop back around to. So let me grab that and show that to you. Okay, so I'm going to go right here. So this is a Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle from quite a while ago, but we have tested this change idea many times because we've had summer immersive experiences. So as you may know, many of you know, we engage rising freshmen in a 2-week summer research experience at a variety of sites around the state, so that our rising freshmen, our first generation rising freshmen, have a first experience inside of a scientific community with their peers and faculty members or industry professionals or whatever. And we know that this is a good idea because it has really been assessed in the literature quite a lot, that engagement in research, if you want to be a STEM person, is motivating to your desire to persist and go ahead and graduate with a STEM degree. So this is something that we do every summer since before the First2 network was an alliance. And in this Plan, Do, Study, Act cycle, this test of the change idea to have an immersive experience, there were 2 questions that were asked. One was, to what degree our students' STEM self-efficacy, their confidence in doing STEM, increase for rising freshmen? And a prediction was made, and data to be collected was quantitative data and qualitative data. Question 2 was, to what degree STEM career interest increased by a 2-week internship? And in this particular test, there was an industry component. So students were inside of a chemical company called Chemours and interacting with the equipment and doing part of their research there. A prediction was made again, and data to be collected was quantitative and qualitative. Our source of data for this particular change idea comes largely from an annual evaluation that our evaluation team does, in which they ask students to rank statements based on their experience as an intern in one of these research experiences. So the data that we'll be looking at today with regard to these types of questions is data collected regarding student career interest and students' knowledge and confidence about being part of the research community. So in the chat, I placed a link, and I'm going to do it again before we go into breakout sessions, but we created a study workshop session folder in our Google Drive, and each working group has a folder inside. Now, I understand that the student leadership group is going to join faculty student engagement group for this exercise because they work together on a fabulous change idea that they will tell you about, I hope, briefly in our report out session. And they want to work together to study the data that they collected on that. So we'll establish 3 breakout rooms, I think, is what we'll end up doing, since that's the case, unless Joanna or students, you say you want a 4th one in case you want to get into your own breakout session before it's all said and done. We can make that a 4th room.
Yes, please.
Okay. All right. So we are going to try in each one of these folders. I'll just click on one here. In each one of these folders, there is at least a data discussion guide. In the immersive experiences, we stuck in our evaluation results. I looked for evaluation results that would pertain to the others, but they were more about, they weren't related directly to particular change ideas. So, but for immersive experiences, we do have some data to use. So anyway, you should find inside each folder an immersive experiences data discussion guide. And that looks like, oops, that doesn't look like that. That looks like this. All right. And so what we've done with this data discussion guide is take out everything except for some discussion questions that will help you. And we would love it if you wish to write directly in your own data discussion guide as part of your working group. So you can put the change idea that you are going to be discussing at the top, and then use these questions to help you analyze and study the data that you've collected. We've made 2 copies of that in case you end up studying more than one change idea together in your hour, essentially 45 minutes or so that you have very shortly here. Okay. So that data discussion guide, I want to know at the end of it whether it was a valuable thing or not. I'm going to be polling you on that. So give it a try because I think it's helpful, and I want to know if you think it's helpful at the end of this session. All right. Well, with that said, you should have access to the Google folder. We'll post that link again in the chat. We're going to go into breakout rooms in just one moment here. Let me stop sharing. And I'm going to grab the link, first of all, so that you have the link to the folder if you haven't gotten it yet. And then I think what we'll do here, I've got to make Sean a co-host so he can help me out here. But here are the way we'll structure the breakout rooms in the chat right here. So faculty student engagement, breakout room 1, student leadership. You can join that one when you're ready for that. And then there is one for you too, if you want it. So let's see here, Sean. Let's find you. Make you a co-host. All right. So any questions? All students will go to one. Yeah, absolutely. Okay, so all students will go to breakout room 1, and then college readiness, and we'll go to breakout room 2, and immersive experiences will be in breakout room 3.
Sue Ann, sorry to interject, but it occurs to me that we have 20 students on this call, and I do think that they all participated together in this particular change idea, but they also all participated in immersive.
I would love that.
so-
I didn't want to ask, but
Yeah, I don't think we need 20 students. I think it would be okay to split those students right down the middle. I don't know. I don't think college readiness is analyzing something that students took part on. But again, college readiness, if you would prefer to have some students there, and maybe even in terms of thinking about change ideas you want to implement next year, we really could split these students between spaces, which would be awesome.
it would be. So I'll make a pitch. We'd love to have some students in immersive experiences to look at this data with us. Welcome back to the main room. And thank you so much to the group in the immersive experiences, and to Debbie for her excellent coaching of our group. It was really helpful to have you there, Debbie. So what we want to do next, for just a few minutes for each breakout room, is to just report out. Tell us what you discussed. Maybe something about your change idea, so that we have just that little bit of context. And then if you want to tell us some key takeaways and next steps, please do that. So I will ask for faculty student engagement / and with students to go first.
Hi everyone, I'm Josiah Baker. Yeah, something that we kind of discussed in our breakout room was we spoke a lot of like just communications between faculty and students, specifically through emails and student evaluations, especially at the end of the semester, that in a way that like we as students put forth our efforts to like try to give our opinions and suggestions, positive or negative, to our professors, and something that we kind of have learned is that we don't want to like really group students and professors into one category, because professors have different teaching styles and students have different learning styles. So like we all take something from our college experiences differently. And so moving forward, we just want to mainly create solutions with learning how to like just communicate with each other, and hopefully we can better help each other, especially during these hard times during COVID.
Anybody have any questions for this group, or anyone else from the group want to add to that?
Yeah, I will just add like what we really went through and what we learned. So we talked about depending on different situations where students and faculty get involved in. For example, like a lot of students were talking about mental health, but then we also talked about how professors like go through stress and they have mental health issues as well. So it really like made us understand better that we all are like same in the struggle, kind of. So like we all are struggling to understand each other, and it's not like students are right or faculty is right. It's like both of us are trying to just understand each other, and we just have to analyze.
Thanks, Maria. Yeah, and I'll just close out for our group. Just as a reminder, if you weren't in our session, this was an asynchronous conversation between faculty and students, and we used just like a Google spreadsheet. So faculty could say whatever they want to say to students, and then it was, anonymously shared with students, and they could say whatever they want in response. And then the faculty could respond, have a closing statement. And then we also did it the other way, where students say whatever they want to say to faculty, faculty respond to that, and then students have a closing response to that. So we have these 2 different Google documents of just this conversation between faculty and students that it's all totally anonymous. And so I think it was really eye-opening for everyone. And we think that this is a change idea to adapt moving forward and to continue for empathy building.
Very good. Thank you for putting the bow on the end of that for us there. I was going to ask you if you thought your data supported your change idea and you want to keep it. All right, let's hear from Lydia with the Immersive Experiences breakout group.
Yeah, so my name is Lydia, and we talked about in our breakout room the immersive experience from last summer. We were analyzing the data from the pre and post surveys that everyone took right at the beginning of the immersive experience and at the end. And they were the exact same questions, and we analyzed which of the questions, which difference was statistically significant. And we talked about what causes would make them not statistically significant. So we talked a lot about being mindful to match the students to a research topic they were actually interested in, because a lot of students last year got matched to topics that they weren't interested in, and we think that may have contributed to some of the responses to the survey going down in agreement. So like an example, they felt less confident in their STEM career. So we think that could contribute to that. We also talked about some of the wording for some of the questions and how to reword them so we could maybe get better responses. Like the one we talked about was relating to STEM career, and it said, I'm more likely to pursue a STEM degree as the result of the experience. And the students were asked to rate that from strongly disagree to strongly agree. And we talked about how if they already came in confident, then that might not have affected them. So we were talking about maybe to reword that question. We also talked about the possibility of collecting data from students a year later, so after their freshman year of college, instead of just pre and post immersive experience, and see if their answer is different, if they feel more confident in their field, or if they change majors or anything like that. So does anyone else want to add anything?
Did a good job. Anybody else from our team want to add anything to that? So we got some concrete ideas for improving the internship in regard to that data discussion, and wished for more time too, because we only discovered a really detailed table. I did anyway. Later in, that's really gave us more. So that was awesome. Thanks again, everybody, for your contributions to that. That was super good. And now, okay, could we have a report out from college readiness?
Hey, do one of the students want to report out, since you guys did such an amazing job instead of having me do it?
So we talked about the PDSA that college readiness team is working on for bringing more awareness and understanding to syllabi for high school students, because most high school students have no idea what a syllabus is or how to properly use them. So we did quite a bit of planning on how to collect data. We came up with a ton of questions, and then we talked about some different questions that teachers have been given about why students struggle during their first year of college, excuse me. And we were kind of comparing how they were feeling about it, versus how students were feeling about it. And we were coming up with a few change ideas for that as well.
Nice. That's great. So you're planning for future data, and that is great. Get that data that you want to see if you're making.
So yeah, well, they were planning a lot for our syllabus PDSA, but they took a look at some informal data that we collected at WVSTA with the science teachers. And it was pretty amazing what the science teachers thought were the barriers for persistence in STEM. And all the students were pointing out all the things that they missed. Every single one of the things that a college student might face that the teachers were totally unaware of. So it was a really rich, very good discussion. Yeah, I took like 2 pages worth of notes. So
okay, well, that's a great segue for this thing here. I've got a 2-question poll, and I see a typo in the first question. So where it says of, insert the word or. So if you wouldn't mind just telling me, did you find the opportunity to collaboratively study one or more of your PDSAs useful? And then question 2 is from 1 to 5, with 5 being more valuable. Tell us if you found the discussion guide valuable in this session. That's the one that's open. There's another one that's refrigerated too. Oh. All right. I think that I will maybe end the polling. Yeah, let's do it. We've got a majority here. And share results. Thank you for that. All right, so Jade, thank you all for this session and your work. This was really great, and I definitely enjoyed the work with y'all today. I'm going to turn this over to Jade because she's got some other not polls, but quick surveys for you to do. So Jade, do you want to?
Sure. So first I want to announce that Nate Hollister was randomly selected to win the $25 Visa gift card from the First2 network. Way to go, Nate. You are a winner. If you could just share your email address with us in the chat, and I will be in touch with you regarding where you'd like for us to send that gift card. And also, I'm going to pop in the chat a link to a quick survey about this session to see what we could do to improve, what was most valuable for you. According to those poll results, it looked like you guys got a lot out of the time that you spent in the working group. So if you could, it'll take maybe a little over a minute for you to complete this survey, and we would greatly appreciate it. And I think once you're done, you can go